Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to show you how to unlock the full potential of your digital advertising campaigns with precise tracking. We will do this by teaching you how to set up floodlight tags in Google Campaign Manager 360 to help transform your data into actionable insights. First off, you may be asking, why floodlight tags? Where do they fit in? When do I use them? What are they? Floodlight tags are a critical component of Campaign Manager 360 and the Google Marketing Platform as a whole. Floodlights can be shared across the platform, including DV360, which is Google's programmatic DSP, as well as Search Ads 360, which will help further inform your advertising efforts. Floodlight tags are essential for gathering detailed data on user interactions from your programmatic ads, which helps you understand the effectiveness of your campaigns across platforms. They help with accurate tracking, and that means you can optimize your advertising strategies and maximize ROI, and that's what everyone wants. In this tutorial, we'll explain how to set up floodlight tags in CM360, which is a crucial step for tracking and measuring user actions like purchases, signups, and page views in digital advertising campaigns. In this video, we'll walk through the steps to set up floodlight tags in CM360, covering the key features and settings that will help you track conversions and optimize your campaigns effectively. We recommend using this video as a resource when launching new campaigns using CM360 or refining your existing setup to ensure you're capturing the right data for optimization. So make sure to save this video and subscribe and like. Let's dive in. There are currently 4 tabs in the floodlight section of CM360. These are the configuration, Google tag, activities, and activity groups. Configuration is where you start. You need to set up the configuration before you can create any activities, as each activity will have its own tag. All tags will follow these configuration settings. Next, we have conversion windows. Conversion windows specify how many days into the past you want to look when determining whether to record a conversion. When reporting on conversion data, you can choose to pull this data from the floodlight or manually enter a custom value. Note though, that you want to make sure to set this to match your actual conversion cycle or to match other pixels that you might be using for other platforms. For example, if your objective is lead generation, you may have a longer conversion cycle than an e-commerce sale. Therefore, you want to account for that in your conversion windows. This next section is default consent settings for tag data. This is personal data sent to Google for advertising purposes from end users in the European Economic Area. If data sent is not labeled with consent, Google will not be able to use it for such purposes as ads personalization. This option is to automatically label the data as consented. Be careful with this one. If you want to automatically opt users in, there are steps that need to be taken on your website and tagging setup to gain consent prior to the tag loading. This next section is services that can receive tag data. Here you choose the Google services that can receive consented data used for end users in the European Economic Area. Note though, if you don't want to share the data, you need to go configure and then unselect all of the services. Otherwise, they'll all be enabled by default. The next 2 sections are similar, but deal with imported and uploaded data such as customer lists and other first-party lists. Next section is personalized ad exclusions. Here you can exclude locations from personalized ads for this floodlight configuration. This allows you to manage how user data is collected and used and prevent users from being added to audience lists or remarketed to. These settings will apply to all floodlight activities in the configuration. Dynamic tags can be used to deliver additional code when your floodlight tags are fired. This code can be used to integrate third-party tools for tracking website activity, enabling the notification of third parties in real time when there is a conversion. This is basically like a mini GTM container. You can also link your floodlights to Google Analytics. You can link any property you manage or request access to others that you don't, but you need to request using the admin email and property ID of Google Analytics. This can allow you to connect audiences and campaign data. You can also consolidate your tagging when using multiple Google services, but we'll cover that in a separate video. Firebase is Google's tracking system for mobile apps. You do need a Firebase project ID in order to connect here. Once you save the configuration, the request will be sent to the admin on the Firebase project for approval. Same idea with display and video 360 associations here. You can enter your DV360 partner ID, save the configuration, and that will send a link to that admin. This next section is Ads Data Hub. What is this? Ads Data Hub is a Google Cloud project that allows advertisers to analyze Google ad data from multiple platforms in a privacy-focused way. You need to have an ads data account ID to use this. Once you save it, the association will be made. The next section is enhanced attribution. By enabling enhanced attribution, you can improve the attribution signals across the Google marketing platform for display and video inventory. When a user clicks on an ad, a DCLID value is automatically appended to the end of the landing page URL. On the landing page, the Google tag will read and track the DCLID like it does with the GCLID from Google Ads. When a conversion occurs, Campaign Manager 360 will be able to understand the click activities that led to it. This next section is custom Floodlight variables. Custom Floodlight variables let you capture additional reporting data by using URL parameters. For example, if you'd like to track multiple events or locations for events with the same Floodlight, you can use these parameters to send the data needed to differentiate them. Some specific examples may be page path to get the URL, action for the name of the event, and domain to identify which site the tag was fired on. Keep in mind these variables need to be populated on the site when the tag fires. Enhanced conversions. Enhanced conversions use data customers provide on your website, such as email addresses, to improve measurement and optimize your campaigns. This setting needs to be completed for each Floodlight activity or Google Tag Manager tag. Path to conversion extends the number of touch points to 200 from 5. This can be useful for advertisers that have a longer conversion cycle or more complex user journeys or marketing mixes. For app attribution and server to server, if you're using Floodlights with a third-party service for in-app attribution tracking for events such as downloads, create a server-to-server authentication token here, then provide it to the third party so that they can provide the authentication needed to pass the information to Campaign Manager 360. Next, we have data sharing settings. This is used for Google Marketing Platform product improvement. You can only deselect this if you set up a data processing amendment with your provider or directly with Google. In attribution, you can set up your own model that will be available in reporting. I have a standard model set up, but you can create custom models that use a specific method of attribution, include all conversions, just viewable conversions, or just engaged conversions. You can also choose to include model conversions when tracking is unavailable or exclude them. Yes, I know it says included model impressions. I believe that is a typo. Even Google isn't perfect. In the Engage View Conversion section, Engage View conversions are counted when a user watches at least 10 seconds of a skippable in-stream ad or watches the entire skippable in-stream ad if it's shorter than 10 seconds, or watches 5 seconds of an in-feed or shorts ad, and then converts within the Engaged View conversion window. This requires viewable impressions to be included in your attribution model. For Active View custom video metrics, you can add viewability metrics to your reports by selecting audible, visible, and time on screen requirements. The next section we're going to talk about is the Google tag. This is basically the new name for the G tag. This section, which is fairly new to Campaign Manager 360, is very similar to the GA4 tag setup. This is where you can identify other domains you want to allow tracking on or set up user data capabilities. There's a lot to cover here, so we won't go through all of it. Okay, now let's look at activities. A Floodlight activity is a specific conversion you want to track, such as a completion of a purchase or a visit to a page on your site. Note that every action is considered a conversion, including a page view, so don't get stuck too much in that terminology. Next, give it a name, then select a type to specify how conversions will be counted for this activity. There are two options: counter activities, which record non-monetary conversion data such as page views, unique users, leads, and session length, or sales activities, which record monetary data for conversions such as cost and number of items sold. Then we select the activity group. This is where we select a group from the last step we completed. So you can also create them from here as well if you need to. The counting method specifies how conversions will be counted for this Floodlight activity. The options available depend on whether you're creating or editing a counter or a sales activity. If you're creating a counter, you have three options: count them all, count just the first per user each day, or one per user session. Carefully consider what you're trying to measure and what data you want back out of the reporting. If you're creating a sales activity, you can count the transactions and revenue or the items sold and revenue. Note that items sold will count a conversion for each item in the transaction, so the number of conversions per event will be greater than 1. If you want to count one transaction but include the items, you can do this through structuring a custom Floodlight variable that passes the cart data in an array back to the Floodlight tag. Next section is postbacks. You can enable postbacks to notify an app publisher when an in-app click-through conversion is made. Creating these is definitely outside the scope of this video, but the capability is here. This next section is attribution. You can choose to either enable or disable attribution on this activity. You may want to disable attribution for activities that are of low value or aren't true conversions like page views. Next, we have the expected URL. This is the URL of the web page where you plan to place the tag for your Floodlight activity. If provided, this URL is available for informational purposes as a comment within the Floodlight tag code to help you identify where the tag should reside. This does not affect the tag itself, so it isn't required. Next, we have activity-specific personalized ad exclusions. Here you can exclude locations from personalized ads for this activity specifically. This allows you to manage how user data is collected and used and prevent users from being added to audience lists and remarketed to. If exclusions are set for this activity's configuration, they can't. The next section here is enhanced conversions. This basically creates a placeholder in the tag for user-provided parameters, but you still have to edit the tag and the website to pick up the dynamic variables from the site or app. Next, we have the custom Floodlight variables. This is where we select the variables we want to include in the tag. Just as above, you need to edit the tag to include the dynamic variable value as needed. And that concludes the initial setup of Floodlight tags within Campaign Manager 360. If you're setting them up in DV360 or Search Ads 360, the process is a little bit different, but we'll do videos on that later. The next step is to implement the tags in your app or on your website. Note that these tags can be added as third-party or first-party tags. We will cover this implementation in another video. Please join us for that one as well. Now we're going to jump down to Floodlight activity groups. A Floodlight activity group is a container for Floodlight activities. You need to create at least one Floodlight group before you can create any Floodlight activities. Each group can contain only one type of activity. For example, you can create one group for action activities and another group for transaction type activities. So for action activities like page views, things like that, you would use a counter group. For transactions like e-commerce sales, you would use a sales activity group. Note that if an advertiser is part of a shared Floodlight configuration, you can only create Floodlight activities from the parent advertiser. All of the child advertisers will have access to the Floodlight activities that have been created in the parent. Once you've created the Floodlight activity group, you can make only a few different changes. You can change the name without affecting any of the reporting data, and you can add or remove Floodlight activities from the group. However, there are certain changes you cannot make to an activity group. You cannot change the group's type. You cannot change it from an action to a transaction group. You also cannot change the group's tag string. Once that is created, that is the ID that is used to uniquely identify this group. So the bottom line here is make sure you plan out your tracking and your measurement strategy ahead of time, because if you're going through it, you create a bunch of activities, a bunch of activity groups, place a bunch of tags, and you find out that it's not working the way you want, there can be a lot of changes that need to be made that may not be as easy to make as you would like. So an ounce of prevention is definitely warranted here.